Hello, everybody. Welcome to another amazing, wonderful, fantastic webinar. So, if you're here with me live or on recording, please do hit that like button, hit subscribe. It really does help us out over here at Pass Buddy. Let me just mute myself. I had that on the background. Hopefully, that doesn't come through anyway. Now that we got the audio little problem down. What I want to do is this. Today, we're going to be going over agency. We're going to be going over that. And look, listen, what I want to tell you is this. If you're going over to Pass Buddy, right, and you're checking out some of our past webinars, take a look. Something that you could actually type in. So watch this. So if you wanted to type in, let's say finance, you could see all of our past finance webinars that we have and all the upcoming ones as well. So this is something that I really want to make sure that everyone's signing up for the software, signing up for the program, because it's going to help us out in the long run when we have more and more people joining so that we could add more and more things to help you pass your real estate exam because we already have a ton of things. We already have a ton of practice questions, cram courses upcoming. And what I want to tell everyone is this today we're going to be going over agency questions. So let's jump into a Pass Buddy practice exam question. So let's look at this first one. It says broker Bob as has an exclusive agency listing with seller Sam. 2 weeks after placing a sign in the yard, Sam calls Bob and asks him to pick up the sign and leave because Sam found his own buyer who came knocking on the door after seeing the sign. Sam felt that he had a right to sell the property himself and not pay a commission. Which of the following is true? Under an exclusive agency listing, a commission is due regardless of how a buyer is found. An exclusive agency listing does not allow the seller to sell the property himself without paying a commission. C. An exclusive agency listing allows the seller to sell the property himself and not pay a commission. Or D. Sam must pay a commission because Bob is the procuring cause. So, what say you in the chat if you're here with me live? Don't forget, you could ask any questions, concerns, burning desires. So, this situation, here's what we have, okay? So, a lot of people that are out there in our several groups that we have, you're all answering saying that, C or D, okay, are kind of the ones that we're playing with. So, what do you think? Do you think that this is the case? Well, here's the situation, okay? Now, the situation is this, okay? Follow me on this question. And this is kind of unique and kind of interesting. So, if the situation was simply that this buyer just came along and there was nothing, okay, that caused this sale to go through, right? Nothing that happened. Then what happens is this, okay? The for sale sign, the for sale sign in this situation, in this situational scenario, is what's bringing the buyer in. Now, the question is this: absent the effort of broker Bob, which here's the thing, the effort is menial. Yes, I would say that. I would say the act of putting a for sale sign in the yard is not a lot of work. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If I was the seller, I would be like, "No, you know what? That's not enough." But the question is, would this buyer have knocked on the door and purchased the home without that for sale sign that was broker Bob's for sale sign? Would they have done that? Yes or no? This situation, this scenario, the answer is no, right? Because it even says they came knocking after seeing the sign. The sign in this scenario, and I'm not saying every situation, the sign in this scenario actually links that purchaser to the actions and efforts, although menial, although not very big, to Broker Bob. Broker Bob's efforts have created this buyer to start an unbroken chain of events that leads to the culmination of a sale. So, in this situation, yes, the seller would owe a commission. Okay. In this scenario. Now, let's say another thing, right? In an exclusive agency listing, okay, in an exclusive agency listing, does the seller retain the right to sell the property on their own without paying a commission? With their own efforts, do they have that right? Yes or no? Tell me in the chat if you're here with me live. What say you? What say you in the chat? So, the situation is this. In an exclusive agency listing, yes, the seller, okay, the seller has the right to sell the property on their own. Okay. If it was an exclusive right to sell, let me ask that question. If it was an exclusive right to sell, would the seller have a right to sell it on their own without paying a commission? Exclusive right to sell. Would they have the right to sell it on their own without paying commission? Yay or nay? They would not have the right to sell it on their own without paying commission. Okay? Because it's a situation where, okay, they don't have the right to sell it on their own without paying a commission. They owe a commission no matter who sells it. Now, I want to run through a couple of scenarios with you to kind of really kind of drive home the difference between the exclusive right to sell and an exclusive agency listing, okay? So, let's say broker Bob works for Remax, okay? So broker Bob, I'm going to write it down on my notepad so I'm following along. And here's the thing. If you don't have a notepad with you while you're doing this, I would highly recommend that you get one. And what did I say? They work for Remax? That's what I just wrote down. So I said broker Bob Remax. Now, let's say that broker Bob is the listing agent working with the seller. Okay, so we're going to keep that. We're going to write that down. Okay, now we're going to say that salesperson Sally, you can write salesperson Sally down as I'm doing with you. They work for Keller Williams. Okay, so and they're working with a buyer. Now, let's say this, write this down. Broker Bob lists the property. Salesperson Sally from Keller Williams has a buyer, and it's an exclusive right to sell listing. Exclusive right to sell. Okay. My question is this: does the seller owe a commission? Well, exclusive right to sell, they're going to owe a commission no matter who sells the property. So they have an agreement. So here's what happens. Okay. Typically, generally speaking, again, what happens is this: the seller owes a commission to the listing agent. That is who they have the relationship with. Now, the that agent could say, "We want to co-broke. We want to offer out a certain amount of commission. Would you entertain this? Would you want to just pay me and then say to the buyer's agent, "Hey, you would have to get your commission from your client." Okay? Because now without getting into the weeds of things about how commissions can be split, worked on, and what your state and the laws are, and what the rules and regulations are post NAR settlement of last year, right? It's a situation where really, truly, there are several different ways that we could cut this. And commissions are always negotiable, but it's a scenario where there's more likely going to be a lot more different situations you might run into in a practical setting, right? But what I'm talking about strictly is understanding the exclusive right to sell and exclusive agency and how they differ. Okay. So now, again, they'll have the listing with Broker Bob, which I said was from Remax. And Broker Bob, again, is going to decide, is going to decide in conjunction with the seller, right, how they're going to handle the commissions, right? And no matter who sells the listing in an exclusive right to sell, Broker Bob will get a commission. Okay. So a commission would be owed by the seller. Now, what about exclusive agency? Now, here's what I want to ask you, okay? When it comes to exclusive agency listings, right? Exclusive agency listings. My question is this, okay? My question is um bottom line, would in this scenario broker Bob with Remax and salesperson Sally with Keller Williams, okay? Um would they still be owed a commission? Would a commission still be owed an exclusive agency given the same circumstances? Yes or no? So the situation is this. My audio cut out just then. It's been one of those days. Audio issues abound. They would owe a commission in that situation. So exclusive agency, a lot of people kind of get this misnomer where exclusive agency, they think that that is a listing type where there is only one brokerage working with them. So give me a big smiley face. Write that down in your notepad. Write a smiley face down if you're one of those people. If you say, "Oh yeah, exclusive agency means I only work with one brokerage, and that this brokerage can't use another agency." Like that, the fact that I'm working with Broker Bob from Remax means that only Remax agents could show the property, not anyone from Keller Williams. The situation is this: that is a separate question. That is a separate question entirely. You can have an exclusive right to sell that no matter who sells the home, the broker is going to get a commission, and also have a waiver of broker cooperation where the seller is saying, "Hey, I don't want anyone but your brokerage," right? Um, those are two separate questions. An exclusive agency simply means that it's a situation where what happens is this, okay? The seller reserves that right to sell it on their own without paying without paying a commission. That's all that means. It does not mean that only one brokerage has the listing and that they can't promote it on like an MLS service. So that's the situation there. Keep that in mind. So I hope that helped you out understanding the difference between exclusive right to sell and exclusive agency listing. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at the next one. Okay. So the next one says an agent is providing services to a client by running inquiries on potential customers, checking their financial background, credit reports, and criminal histories. This agent is most likely conducting her job as a buyer's agent, a property manager, a listing agent, or a transaction coordinator. This is a great question. So, this type of action, this type of activity, what do you think this is likely tied to in a practical setting? What role would you think the person is acting in? What is their job? This is a great question. So, my opinion is that this would be a property manager, right? So, now several things can be true at the same time. Okay. An agent that is providing services to a client, okay, by running these inquiries, okay? meaning that they are doing these on behalf of a landlord or property owner. Okay. Now, listen to what I'm going to tell you. Several things can be true at the same time because you might think, oh, they cannot discriminate against me based on certain things, based on maybe a criminal record, things like that. What I will tell you is this: there are certain things they can discriminate against in every state, and there's certain things that they cannot, right? They sometimes can base their decision on certain factors, such as some sort of financial background check, if some sort of financial background, credit reports, criminal history, things like that. It could be legal in your state. It's important going into going into the real estate field in your state to know and understand and be able to educate yourselves in regards to what you can and cannot do in certain roles. So, property management might be something that you're interested in getting into. I think it would be important as to mentor, like go into some sort of mentorship with someone who is experienced with it. So it's a situation where, you really want to get into what is illegal, what is best practices in your state, because that could vary from state to state. But in regards to, okay, in regards to this particular one, what I would tell you is they're describing the role of a property manager. Now, let me ask you this: how would you describe, if you're here with me live and you're able to type into the chat, how would you describe the role of a transaction coordinator? Like, what do they do? What does a transaction coordinator do? So, a transaction coordinator, okay, is typically going to, this is going to sound silly, but they are going to they're going to coordinate the paperwork and the transaction on a back end for a real estate professional. Might be for a brokerage, it might be for a team, it might be for an individual. I had a transaction coordinator for a very long time in my career that handled all the back end stuff, like handle filing my paperwork, making sure that my files were up to date and in compliance with my brokerage and my local state laws, and also my board of realtors that I belong to. So basically, I made sure that everyone had their paperwork in hand and that everyone had all the things that they needed in order for me to be compliant. So that's something that really is another role. A lot of people actually going into real estate, if you are detail oriented and you like some of the clerical behind the scenes work, I would 100% say to you, think about that as far as a career path. It's a really great one. I think that a lot of students, especially newer ones who are detail oriented and like the clerical side of things, you might really find yourself being someone that would be successful in the role of a transaction coordinator. So let's look at this one. This one says, all the following are true with regard to a listing agreement, except a commission rate of more than 25% is legal. If an offer accepted after a listing has expired, a seller may be required to pay a commission. An exclusive agency listing obligates a seller to pay a commission regardless of who procures a buyer, where the protection period may obligate the seller to pay a commission even if he sells the property by owner. So, what say you on this one? What say you? So, a lot of you are saying, okay, a lot of you are going to be saying on this one that all the true. This one is a funny answer, right? Like, is it legal to charge more than 25%? It actually is. So why? Because all commissions are negotiable. Kevin said a middle person, like a paid licensed assistant, absolutely, 100%. If we're talking about going back to the transaction coordinator, right? So 100% is really, it honestly, I think it's a great, fantastic role for a lot of new agents. It's something that I always love pointing them out to that opportunity in the field. So, situation here is this, going back to this particular question, right? A commission rate of any percent is legal as long as it's negotiable, right? The whole entire thing is that it is absolutely has to be negotiable, okay? And situation is this also too, the exclusive agency listing again, the seller is going to be allowed to not not pay a commission if they actually sell the home themselves. So today we're actually going to cut a couple minutes short because I have been experiencing some audio issues and I want to, get those clarified, get those fixed up. And also, too, I want to remind everyone that if you haven't already signed up for Pass Buddy, head on over to passbuddy.com. That's where we have all of our practice questions, tips, tricks. And guess what? If you want to watch some of our past webinars, that's stuff that you could do. You could also do that right here on our YouTube channel because we do have a large portion of webinars that do go only to our members, but sometimes we do just like this. We let you get a taste of it out there, and we put this out on our YouTube channel absolutely for everyone to enjoy. And also, don't forget, we put out daily math videos over on our TikTok channel. So just type in Pass Buddy over on TikTok, and that should be able to help you out with your studies as well. And remember, please do hit that like button, hit subscribe. It helps us out over here at Pass Buddy. And again, follow us over on TikTok for some daily content as well as checking out our shorts here. And I will see everybody real soon. Have a great one, everybody.